So I'm going to share with you guys Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 Battletech as a way to kind of analyze your collection. I'm going to share a couple of my thoughts on it, then I'm going to open it up in the comments for you. You know how this starts, especially if you are a miniature wargamer coming from another system, whether it's something out of control like Warhammer 40,000 or even something a little bit more subtle like historicals. If you are new to Battletech and this is your first entry into wargaming, I am settling my debts now. I'm leveling out my karma. It's all good. I'm giving you that warning. So it starts out, you got a couple of mechs, you collect a few more, your collection grows. You've got some that you like playing, you got some that you haven't played, you got a few that you're probably not going to play, but they were part of a deal on there, and you're good, and you're done. You're very, very happy. Double happy if you've actually painted them all up and you're ready to go. But then something cool happens on the tabletop. Whether it's to you or you make it happen, and now you get an idea like, hey, that's awesome. I want to do that. And you start like building some other lances, you start exploring some other ideas, or maybe you watch a battle report and someone's on legendary mode with a mech, and next thing you know, you have another mercenary company. Or you're like, hey, look, Fritz, I'm House Davian all the way. But what if my buddy shows up and he wants to play Battletech and he doesn't have any mechs? So I have to build another lance. I have to build some Karita forces on there. It's only fair. We have to. We all, whatever you have to do to justify your mini collection, it's all good on there. But this leads into Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, and how I try to approach a mix, because these miniatures do represent a purchase, an investment of time and money. We want to try and get the most that we can out of our collection, especially as it grows, which is why, on a side note, I love playing Battletech, but I also want to play Alpha Strike once in a while. Personally, I prefer Battletech. I'm glad we're done and it's buried and we're over with calling it Classic Battletech. But I am open to playing Alpha Strike because I want to try and use my miniatures in a variety of rule sets on there. And Alpha Strike is still Battletech. So Tier 1, these are the mechs that I always enjoy playing. Now, maybe you approach the game from a tactical perspective. You want the best of the best, the optimized, you're very competitive. Maybe these are mechs that, for whatever reason, you just really enjoy playing them. An example of Tier 1 mechs for me. The Grasshopper. It looks kind of funny, but it's a very competitive mech. Very, very effective mech in there. And, of course, these tiers go across the entire spectrum, the entire weight class of mechs. The Jenner is another great example. Just speed, armor, massive weapons on there. Just amazing for a light mech. We have other mechs, the Catapult. In the new starter set, Game of Armored Combat starter set, all of the mechs are amazing choices. But I would have to say, in that set, as much as I love the T-Bolt, as much as I love the Awesome, and the T-Bolt and the Awesome, they're in Tier 1 for me too. Catapult is one of the best mechs, Intersphere mechs in the game. It's got the redundancy of the LRMs. It has the medium lasers. It's got good armor. It's got good speed. It's got jump. It's got a lot on there. It's just missing arms to grab stuff, but it's a solid mech. There's also mechs, the Awesome I put in Tier 1 because it is an awesome mech. Then there's some mechs that, in my Tier 1, that I enjoy playing. The Duke of Death, my urban mech. This is a mech that I've been playing for a long time. Every time there's a battle report, I continue to advance the story. On a side note, underneath this podcast, underneath this vlog in the info box is a link back to my blog where I have the chronicles of the Duke of Death. You'll find that under the battle reports on there, and I've got a link over on my Twitter that you can check out there too. But these are the mechs, for whatever reason, your player personality or tactics, they compose maybe 80%, 70 to 80%, my go-to mechs. And I should say there's vehicles in there also. The Demolisher, the PPC Carrier, Goblins with lots of infantry, Karnov. This is kind of the bulk of your collection. Tier 2 are mechs that you enjoy playing, but they're very, very specific for a role. And you find yourself either taking these mechs to fulfill that role, or it's like, hey, I'm going to take one of these mechs and try and make it work on the tabletop. Firestarter, great example, right? If you're going into a wooded area or it's a slash and burn scenario, you take a Firestarter. Or maybe you take the Firestarter and you say, I'm going to try it out. I'm going to see if I can make this kind of really angled area work. Another example would be the Vulcan on there. You're like, city fight up against Fritz. He's probably, no joke, real time, bring in 200 infantry on there. Easily 10 stands with artillery. Goblins full support. I'm going to bring a brace of Vulcans on there. So tier 2 are mechs that excel in one area, and you're bringing it for the mission, or you're bringing it to see what happens. Then tier 3, these are the mechs that find your way to your collection, and maybe they don't fit your play style right now. Maybe they're a little bit challenging to use on there, or you're pushing them in a direction in theory that they're not quite designed for. So they tend to play the least on the table. And of course, vehicles and air support and everything else put in there. So for the most part, when I draw up a list, how much battle value do we have to play? I'll take, 3 or 4 mechs or 3 or 4 pieces, I should say, from my tier 1, because I'm always going to have a great time playing them, a lot of history. I'll take 1 or 2 pieces from tier 2. Let's try and do something on the table. Let's try and make something interesting happen. Let's take those Scorpion tanks and do the Scorpion's Nest on there. Let's see what we can do. And then tier 3 is, I haven't played this mech in a while. Let me include it in. So maybe every 2 or 3 games, I'll pull from that stable maybe a tier 3 type mech. And again, this is my terminology. It's not referring to the effectiveness, because based on how you play and your internal breakdown, I'm like, hey man, Marauder and Warhammer, tier 1. You might be like, Fritz, they're tier 3. I have them, but they never make it out on there. So in the comments, a couple of mechs, 2 or 3. Let's see if we're in sync. What's your tier 1, your tier 2, your tier 3?